What's up, everybody? It's Raymond and Scary here with another episode of the Brew Sportscast. What's going on, everybody? Tonight we have a special guest, my younger brother Adam.
That's right.
Our first guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's the younger brother.
We decided to bring him on as our first guest because Thursday he's moving to San Antonio, Texas. So his little last hoorah send off.
He's on the best podcast.
Yep.
The best.
The best. But tonight we're previewing the NFC North.
Mm-hmm. So tonight we're going to do NFC North, just previewing them. And then next week we'll do NFC East and then the Hall of Fame game review and possibly NFC West with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So like usual, we start with the teams, reviewing the teams in NFC North. So you have Detroit, Chicago, Minnesota, Green Bay. And we start with who had the worst record last year. And work our way up to the best. So you had Detroit, who was 3-13, Chicago 6-11. Oh, Detroit was actually 3-13-1. They had a tie. Chicago 6-11, Minnesota 8-9, and then Green Bay 13-4. So starting with Detroit, what do you think, Ray?
Not very much. You know, they got Jared Goff, DeAndre Swift, Jamison Williams. I like Jamison Williams. I think he's coming off a torn ACL from Alabama.
Yeah.
But I like him, and Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Chark.
Yeah, I mean they have some weapons on offense, like DeAndre Swift. I just took him in our fantasy draft. He's going to be a top back this year. You know, and then their tight end TJ Hawkinson's good. Jared Goff, decent, but there's a reason why they traded him from the Rams. He was 20th in yards last year, 20th in TDs, and 24th in quarterback rating. So not too impressive there.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And their defense, when I was looking at their roster, they didn't have very many stars. Aiden Hutchinson, he's a rookie.
Yeah, which I wanted. I was big on drafting Aiden Hutchinson for the Jags.
Oh, no, and they got Alex Anzalone. I think it's Anzalone. Yeah.
One thing I do want to point out is their offensive line coming into the year by PFF has them ranked number 3 overall. So they do have a good offensive line. Their defense, yeah, but they don't have a good quarterback. But I'm just saying they do have at least a good offensive line to protect them. Their defense was actually pretty good last year. They were 4th in yards allowed.
That's hard to believe.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you have their record? Or are we doing records at the end again?
Records at the end again.
I don't think much of Detroit.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be at the bottom of their division.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. So, Chicago. So they got Justin Fields. Once again, not proven to be the greatest quarterback yet.
No, he had a rough rookie year.
Yeah.
But most quarterbacks do.
He was actually ranked 31st in yards, touchdowns, and quarterback rating. So that's horrible. That is
He's chalk.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's horrible. He had a horrible season last year. They have David Montgomery at running back, who's pretty solid.
I just drafted him, I believe.
Yep. And then at receivers, they have Inkill, or however you say that.
He was just traded from the Patriots a couple days after we talked about the Patriots and previewed them.
Yep. And then you have Darnell Mooney and Dante Pettis at receivers.
Don't forget their tight end.
Cole Kmet.
No. James O'Shaughnessy.
Oh, yeah. James
what?
O'Shaq Hennessy.
O'Shaq Hennessy.
Yeah.
And their defense, just like Detroit, no stars. Only person that I recognize was Roquan Smith, their linebacker.
Their defense is actually, let's talk about their offensive line. And their offensive line and defense are both just as bad as Justin Fields. Offensive line coming into this year is ranked 31st.
Okay.
Defense last year was 27th in yards allowed and 29th in turnovers.
Dang.
Yeah. So, I mean, on down the board, I don't know. I may have given, later on when we talk about records, I may have given this team more credit than they deserve.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Looking at it now.
You know, speaking of Chicago, the other day, I don't know if you saw this, but I sent it to you, and they're trying to relocate the Bears to another part of Chicago, and they're talking about yeah, but and they're talking about putting a second NFL franchise there
in Chicago, which
Chicago.
I don't know why you would. That's a
waste.
horrible city. Like, why?
If the Bears aren't doing it, nobody's going to do it.
Right. I don't know why they would want to move. There's so much history there with Soldier Field and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to move the Bears from where they are?
Right.
I mean, they've been there for so long. That'd be like moving the Packers from Lambeau Field, you know? So, all right, let's move on to Minnesota.
This iffy. It's iffy for me. Their offense, they have a lot of talent. I just don't see them winning a lot of games.
Kirk Cousins.
Mhm.
So I know. So Kirk Cousins. I usually, fantasy wise, draft quarterbacks pretty late. And I usually end up with somebody like Kirk Cousins. A lot of people hate on him. The dude's actually, yeah, he's not that bad. He's a great leader for the team. If you look at his stats, last year, he was 9th in yards, touchdowns, and quarterback rating.
He's not going to win a lot of games though. So he will perform, but they always win like 8, maybe 9 games at most.
Yeah.
The teams he's on.
Yeah. But
their offensive line, I want to say, is ranked, and you might have this written down.
I do.
I want to say their offensive line coming into this season is between 25th and 30th.
I had them actually at 19th.
Oh, really?
But that's different. That's just that one side I use, the PFF.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, but 19th is still not good. Like,
yeah.
I mean, they got
almost right in the middle.
I mean, but look, their offensive weapons. They have Dalvin Cook at running back, and you got Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen at receiver. Both those dudes are top receivers.
And you got Irv Smith at tight end.
Yeah, so Irv Smith is going to be like the go-to man at tight end now that Kyle Rudolph's gone. I really think like Irv Smith is going to surprise a lot of people, or this is going to be like a breakout year for him. He's going to be the man there.
Kind of like John Smith a couple years ago at Tennessee. Just comes out of nowhere. What do you think of their defense?
Defense was actually, from what I saw, I have their defense, I think, pretty highly of them. So last year they were 3rd in yards allowed and 5th in turnovers. Their front is good. Linebackers good. Safeties Harrison Smith and Lewis. Is it pronounced Sine or Sine from Georgia at safety?
Sine.
So you have them two holding down safety. The biggest question mark on their defense is their cornerbacks. Not saying their cornerbacks are weak, but that's just, if there's a weakness on their defense, it's their corners.
Yeah. And I think Patrick Peterson is back with them, or he. You don't know. You watch football this much
I
as
didn't
me.
plan for. I'm just
what did we bring you on here for?
Yeah. But
I thought his ass retired.
No, I think he signed with Minnesota because he'd been in Arizona for the longest time, I believe. Yeah. But what do you think about Minnesota? Anything?
They have multiple weapons on offense. The ability to perform and compete every game. Like I said, Kirk Cousins, he's going to average you 8 wins a season, 9 wins a season. That kind of what he does. So. Yeah. But you got that Florida State running back that's going all over the field. So
who's injury prone?
Yeah. Nobody cares about
he's
Florida State
bitch,
players.
But he's still good.
Yeah. All right. So that's on to Minnesota.
No,
on to Green Bay. We just did Minnesota.
All right, Green Bay. Freaking MVP, NFL MVP, Aaron Rodgers.
Back to
back.
Dude, and I think even without Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers is still gonna freaking do good.
I think he'll do good, but I mean,
in the 7 games, I think it was either last season, last 2 seasons, when Devontae Adams isn't on the field, Aaron Jones steps up and has outstanding fantasy numbers and stats. So we'll see what they do. I think Lazard's going to be the number 1 wide receiver for at least for the first 6-7 games. And
I mean,
you never know, but it's Aaron Rodgers and it's Green Bay, and they're going to win football games.
No, I agree with Lazard, but there's also some other receivers in there that could possibly be number 1 as well. Don't forget about them adding Sammy Watkins.
They added Sammy Watkins?
I didn't know that until I was doing research for this today.
Wow.
Didn't they draft the receiver in the first round too? Was it first round or second round? They finally got Aaron Weapons.
No, I know they took Randall Cobb last year.
They took him.
They brought
The
him
dude's
back.
been
No,
brought him
okay,
back.
brought him back. I was
Like,
about to say that man's been. in the
No, he
league
didn't
for
get
half
drafted.
your
I'm
age.
saying like they brought him back to make Aaron happy.
I think Aaron wanted him back.
They lost Valdez Scantling, but yeah, they brought Sammy Watkins, and then they got Alan Lazard. I don't know if they drafted a receiver or not.
Check it out. I know, and with Aaron Jones, you're going to have A.J. Dillon back up. They're going to be okay in the run game.
You know what I noticed though,
Defense will be pretty good.
playing fantasy all these years and watching Green Bay play, AJ Dillon gets a lot more carries in the red zone than Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
You
He's
got.
only been on the team for, I think,
You're not thinking of. They got Danny Davis.
They had Jamal Williams.
That's
Jamal
who it
Williams.
was.
Yeah, he's in
Yeah.
Detroit
Any
now.
of these guys sound good? Or you got all these are the rookies that they picked up: Danny Davis, Romeo Dubes, Samori Torre, and Christian Watson.
I think it was Watson. Was it Watson?
Christian Watson's from North Dakota State.
It was first or second round. I think he was drafted.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that was the one. Dubes is from Nevada, and Danny Davis is from Wisconsin.
They're not all wide receivers.
Mhm.
They are? Oh, okay.
But I don't. Yeah. I don't know which one's the one that they drafted though.
It's so fucking hot in here, right?
The studio is a little warm today. There's
Yeah.
more people than
There's
usual.
your body heat in here.
Yeah.
All right, but anyways, they also they have Robert Tonyan at tight end, and they still have Mercedes Lewis.
Yeah.
And
Why did we were stupid to let that guy go. Mercedes. He wanted to stay. But
A lot of players will let go of, or they leave. They end up doing really well.
I was about to say Lewis. It's not like Lewis was doing so great for us. Like he was doing good, but it's not like he was some superstar that.
I wonder how long he's been with Green Bay. Because I remember 2017 he had a fantastic year.
Yeah.
We drafted him the same year we drafted Maurice Jones-Drew. Was that him or was that a different tight end?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was.
I think we drafted him right after we had Maurice Jones-Drew, or it was right before. I think it was the same year.
Mercedes has been in the league for a while.
Yeah. Their offensive line was also ranked 5th.
I can
coming
see
into
that.
this year.
I can see
into
that.
this season.
Aaron's protected very well.
Yeah.
You'll be protected, guys.
Okay.
Their defense. What about Green Bay's defense?
So Sportsnot, I looked at them. They have them ranked 2nd coming into the season. Which it's weird. Last year, ESPN showed their stats. They were actually 24th in yards allowed, but they were 3rd in turnovers. They have a really good secondary who creates turnovers. It just threw me off when I saw 24th in yards allowed because you always see them as one of the top defenses.
Well, they have this one DB. His last name is King. I don't know his first name, but watching him in the playoffs, he was trash.
Okay.
Against Tampa Bay. Wait. Did they play Tampa last year in the playoffs?
No, you're the one that said it.
No, it was the
brought
year
our-
before.
we brought
It
our
was
research
It
team.
was the year before. It was the year before, I believe, in the NFC Championship when Green Bay played Tampa in Tampa when Tampa won the Super Bowl. They tore up that King guy. Yeah.
The one player I wrote down on their defense and the secondary that stood out to me was, of course, Jair Alexander.
That's who I wrote down too.
Yeah. Well, he's a stud, top 5 probably in the league.
Yeah. So I have them doing pretty well. I actually just took their defense in our fantasy draft we just had.
Yes, fantasy. That time of year.
Yeah, I'm excited for fantasy. All right. So you ready to move on to the records?
Yeah, let's do the records.
All right. So first up, Detroit. What'd you have them?
I had Detroit going 5-12, 1-5 in the division.
Okay. Who did you have beaten in the division?
The Bears once.
Okay, so I had them going, and as we're doing these records, if you disagree with either of us, or you think that
Something's way off.
or yeah, something's way off, or if you think one of us has a record that you would go with over the other, just say,
Please speak up.
I have Detroit going 4-13, 1-5 in the division. Their solo win versus Chicago, the Bears.
So we did the same win. Yeah.
The same in the division, but we're off by 1 on the record. Chicago.
Well, did you have anything to say about Detroit?
No, but I do think I read something earlier saying Detroit's got one of the top O lines in the league. Not the top or top 2, but in the top, probably 7 or 8, which is kind of shocking for how bad they are.
Yep.
year in and year out.
I don't think they were bad last year. I think they might have been in a couple close games.
Well,
last
they've
year.
been last in the division 4 years in a row.
You don't think they were bad last year? They were 3-13.
They were in a lot of close games.
Oh, okay.
The year
Jags were in a lot of close games.
Yeah,
too.
sometimes you can just lose games and not be bad, but it's okay, guys.
Yeah, as long as they're close.
Wow. Okay.
They get the participation trophy.
You
Wow.
know.
On to Chicago.
He changes it very quickly.
Man, my beer's getting hot. It's so hot in here.
Yeah.
Jesus.
What do you have?
Chicago, I have them going 8-9, 3-3 in the division.
All right, we're very similar. I have Chicago going 8-9, 2-4 in the division. So I have them only beaten Minnesota once and Detroit once.
Okay. I have them losing to Green Bay twice and Minnesota once. So the
Okay.
8-9 in the division.
And like I
Or
said, that
overall.
8-9, after looking at their team, I'm like
Yeah.
rethinking.
Yep.
I'm like,
Uh-huh.
that might be a little high.
I think if Fields plays okay, then maybe if Fields is not as good as people project him to be, I think that they could be, a 6-win team.
Yeah.
A lot of it's going to depend on his play. So.
He was pretty rough last year. Rookie. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Minnesota.
Minnesota. I have them going, and this could be pretty wrong. I have them going 7-10. 7-10 and 2-4 in the division, and their only 2 wins coming against Detroit.
Okay, so now this is where we're going to vary, and Adam can say who he agrees with more. So I have Minnesota going 10-7, 4-2 in the division, 1 loss to Green Bay and 1 loss to Chicago.
And looking at mine, I could say a possible 3-3 with 1 win against Chicago.
So you had 7-10, I had 10-7
Yeah.
for Minnesota.
So a 3-game difference.
I think it all depends on Kirk Cousins. If Kirk plays well, I think that there's a chance that they could go 10-7, 9-8. If Kirk does what Kirk does sometimes, just throwing the ball around, could lose more games than they win for sure. But they've got all the weapons with Dalvin and Justin Jefferson and Thielen, so the ceiling's pretty high for them. We'll just see what they do.
All right.
Yep.
Green Bay.
Green Bay. This might be a little high after looking at, going over their team and stuff like that, but I have Green Bay going 14-3 and 6-0 in the division.
Wow. Okay. I have Green Bay going 10-7, just like Minnesota, but going 5-1 in the division, having 1 loss to Minnesota.
Yeah.
I think they're going to lose 2 in the division. I think it's going to be hard to play in Minnesota, and I think it's going to be hard to play in Chicago, even with Chicago kind of rebuilding with certain pieces. It's still in Soldier Field. It's a difficult place to play. So with Devontae Adams out, I think they're still going to do well with him gone. I think, 10 games. I could see him winning 9, 10, or 11 games, being in the hunt, but I could see them losing in those places just because it's divisional games. And
Makes
there's
sense.
such rivalries and all the years they've played against each other. So, time will tell. We'll see. But either way, I would go closer to yours. I don't think they're going to win as many as Ray saying.
All right, so we
14-3.
we have a little bit different records, but we both agree on the standings. So we have the standings same as last year. Green Bay winning the division.
We do as last year, yeah.
Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago, then Detroit.
Yep.
That
Minnesota and Chicago could easily be flipped.
yeah,
So,
possibly. So one thing before we wrap it up, I want to just preview. So next week we're going to be reviewing the Hall of Fame game.
yeah.
And then we're going to go over
Go Jags.
NFC East and possibly NFC West. And then after that, after we cover all these divisions, that's when we'll be jumping into like our normal, what the show will be throughout the season. So just to lay it out, we're probably going to start off, we're going to have like 3 different segments. So we're going to start off with like reviewing the Jags game that week. Then we're going to like talk about NFL games, like the biggest NFL games and highlights and stuff, and finish with fantasy segment. With the NFL, like the first part of the segment, me and Ray made a little bit at the beginning of the season, $20 each. We're going to do like a 5-team.
Didn't have to say how much, but yeah, $20 each.
What does it matter?
I don't know.
We're not big ballers. We
No,
don't
we're
need. All right. So each week we're going to do like a 5-team pick 'em, and each of us is going to basically compete to see who gets the most throughout the season on picking 5 games that week and picking the winners. And then the fantasy segment, we're gonna do at the end of each episode is we're gonna call it Bust, Trust, and Thrust.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so basically, like your bust, each of us will pick a player from any position that week. We'll just pick one or two players. And so the bust part will be a player that you would normally start that you think is going to have a bad week. So say like you're starting picking some quarterback like Derek Carr or something, but he's facing some really tough defense and you just think he's going to fall apart that week. We would say that player for our bust. The trust is somebody who you would normally start, like a solid starter, that is a for sure, like, yes, you must start them this week. They're a solid starter and you must continue to start them this week. And then the thrust will be a player like sleeper, almost like a player you wouldn't necessarily normally start, that is going to be thrust into action. So somebody, that just say like a backup receiver and their starting receiver just got hurt or something, or you just feel like there's like three receivers on the team and this receiver is going to have like a really good week.
It could be a.
It could even be quarterbacks, tight ends, whatever.
It could be a T. Higgins. If the Bengals are playing the Rams, like in the Super Bowl, Jalen Ramsey on Jamar Chase, T. Higgins could have a bigger game than Chase.
Either way, it's like a player that you wouldn't normally necessarily start every week.
Right.
That for whatever reason that week we're telling you need to start this guy.
Right.
Yep.
But that's about it. I think that's all we have for tonight's episode.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. I'm Raymond.
And I'm Scar. This is the Brew Sportscast.
Until next time.
Keep it brewing.